You're listening to an East Coast Guild podcast. Check us out at eastcoastguild.com. What's up, everybody? How you guys doing? Welcome back to another episode of Organization 2. I'm pretty sure that this is episode 10?
I believe it's
10. Episode 10. We're professional and don't keep forgetting to do the same thing every time at the beginning of a podcast.
Yeah.
Totally.
I'm not Gil, so I don't keep forgetting, so we're good.
Yeah, he doesn't keep... Do you actually have it up and then you're like... Oh, watch?
No, I just remember it for each week.
See, I'm so bad at that. I was like I look at it like so many times during a week, and yet I still am just like, man, I have no idea which one it is.
To be fair, you talk about it each week, so
I do.
I just getting used to it now.
Yeah, that's fair. All right. By the way, you're gonna want... This is the last link you're gonna want because I forgot that we kind of got to talk about this too.
We gotta talk about something.
Yeah, we gotta do our KHUX stuff. So.
Yeah.
All right, so everybody, just to run you guys through what our plan of attack is, we're going to talk about Dengeki PlayStation interviews, Nomura on Kingdom Hearts 3. That's an article from Kingdom Hearts Insider, which is probably where we're going to get most of our articles that we talk about, by the way, because they're really good on everything they do. Then we're going to talk about the Kingdom Hearts 3 Ultimania, which are scenario mysteries interview that got translated, again with Nomura. And then, if we still have time... we're going to talk about like 30 things that make no sense in Kingdom Hearts from Screen Rant, and we're basically going to rail into this author. Wow, words are hard. Yeah, Arthur.
Is this the PBS show, Arthur?
Yes, it is. And we're going to rail into that author about how some of what, by the way, it is a she that wrote it. Some of what she says makes sense as to why it's convoluted, and some of it's just literal bullcrap. But before all that, we're going to talk about the KHUX VIP week and if we think that it's worthwhile or not. So, first off...
I have it up.
I have it up as well.
I'll let you go ahead and do.
I think... so we have, this week again, we have Supernova Ansem, KH3 Ansem. We have 4 Ansem of the Wise Bees and 1 trait medal for him as well. You also have the... KH3 Sora EX and the Riku EX Plus, which the Riku EX Plus is worth it if you end up going VIP. Then you have the gold ticket, and you have the level up stuff, which is normal. And then you have, this week we're doing Supernova HD Ventus, so that makes me hope that in 2 weeks we're going to do Terra and then possibly be able to get the Birth by Sleeps again.
So essentially this week it was the same as last week's, only we have... Supernova Ventus.
Yeah, Ventus, also, and then Sora's skateboard is also there as well, so that's really cool.
And also, every week that we do all the extra experience and evolve medals, I always spend like a couple hours just doing those. It makes so much stuff during this week and the next couple weeks so much easier because you have all the experience medals you need.
It does. That's very true. I personally, again, I'll go on record. I'm probably going to end up getting the VIP this week again. I think,
already have.
Nice. I think the
Which
Supernova.
Is unusual for me.
Yeah, I know it is. I think the Supernova Ansem alone makes this worthwhile, let alone the 3,000 jewels for half the price. But I really do think that this makes it worthwhile as a medal, just because he is a good medal. He's working really well in the high score challenge. You can upgrade him to a Supernova Plus if you have all the medals for it. So I think he's a really good one. I also think that the KH3 Riku makes it worthwhile as well. I don't think Ansem the Wise Bee is worth it as a weekly, like a VIP medal. I don't think he's really worth it.
I did look at the stats. If you get him all the way leveled up, he's pretty good, but he's not the best.
Yeah, he's another VIP medal where it doesn't break the game for having it, but he's not bad to have.
Yeah.
I really think that getting the Supernova Ansem is probably the most pay to win unfair thing that they've done since we've started the podcast. Because he is a very, very highly decent medal, and and like you're getting him basically for free. And I say for free, but I mean the way I like to visualize what you're doing when you buy VIP is you're buying 3,000 jewels for $15.
Yeah.
which that's how I view it and how I justify it. You're actually buying about 4,400 jewels because of the 1,400 you get from Ansem the Wise Bee, or those story, like, I don't want to call them story events, but from those medals and trade events that they do. You get those 1,400, so you're basically getting 4,400 for $15, which is just a steal for the for the price of it and everything.
And I'm gonna go back onto the KH3 Ansem that is available, the Supernova one. Just his value at Supernova is his damage multiplier is 140%, and I think 140 times more. He is a 9-star. He's not a 9-star, but special attack wise, he's the highest one we have so far at a 9.
Yeah,
most of them have been 8s recently. I haven't bumped him up to Supernova Plus. But yeah, he's a big boy.
He is a big boy, and I'm excited to get him up. I need to level him up, and then I think I have to upgrade him with the.
You need the
lady medals. I forget what she's called. Who she is.
Those are just to get to 120, but to Supernova,
you have to use the Bow Wows.
You need to use the Bow Wows.
Oh, I have like 17 or 20 or something. I have like 25 of the 7-star ones from Coliseum last month.
Oh yeah, I have a bunch as well.
I have so many from that. Which, I mean, if you guys aren't doing Coliseum, you need to. That's really all that's going on right now with that. They had their mini K3 challenge and it got done. We also had the high score challenge come out. The avatar parts for Organization 13 came out earlier this past week. We got the monthly gem quests, and then we got the. Say again?
The organization parts, those are slowly updating throughout the weeks.
Yeah, they are. And then you also get the. Well, you don't get it, but the Axel imitation medal came out, the KH3 imitation Axel. I haven't really looked into him. I don't know how good or bad he is, actually, to tell you guys the truth. And they also had a couple of other avatar parts come out, but
I've been trying to get the Axel, but I haven't gotten them yet. Yeah, it makes me.
And see, like,
really good.
I really kind of want to get the Mysterious Sir and the Kafka, and I want to do more with the record keeper stuff. I have to upgrade. I have to do a bunch of proud mode to upgrade my one of my keyblades to use for a reversed keyblade. So because I don't have a lot of reverse medals on a keyblade. So
yeah.
But I think that's really all I got on Kingdom Hearts Unchained Key. Just as a quick kind of like, hey, here's what's going on this week. So just to give you guys an idea. Do you have anything else you'd like to throw in?
For Unchained, not really.
All right. Well then.
I mean, we've covered honestly enough.
Yeah, that's how I felt. All right then. Moving on, we're gonna start talking about these Kingdom Hearts Insider articles.
Mm-hmm. And do you want to start with the first interview?
I think we need to start with the Dengeki interview, just so people understand kind of what's going on and everything like that. Now we'll provide links to these in the show notes, so you guys should be able to see them there. But basically, the Dengeki PlayStation interview goes through a bunch of different questions and kind of just trying to make sure that we understand a little bit more, and Nomura gives us a response to them. As well, so it's a general interview. Some of the stuff I thought was really cool is they talked about rage mode, and so they're like, the first thing I don't really want to talk about the first question. That was basically talking about how many copies they sold and how the end of the Dark Seeker saga was, yada yada. But they have a form appearance called rage form, which you can do with the they're not called reaction commands in this one, but basically the reaction commands.
Yeah, the
situations. Yes, thank you. And so they're like, it reminds us of anti-form. So what's the setup behind it? It goes, well, Nomura's like, well, basically, like, they're kind of the same thing, but they're not, because anti-form is when Sora was full of darkness, where rage form is literally he just gets really, really ticked off.
Yeah. The rage form, it's based off him going into a rampage state controlled by feelings of anger, whereas Anti was not really the opposite. He was just lost in darkness during that period of time.
He was, to quote the article, stained in darkness.
Yeah.
So since he was stained in darkness, that's what it was. Now he didn't go that far in rage state. He's just overcome with anger.
Mm.
So that was that. I thought that was kind of cool that they talked about it. They also talked about how there's no critical difficulty. Why not?
And Nomura said the only reason there was critical mode because it was added in the final mix versions. Now it has been confirmed that there's a lot of DLC stuff, a lot of free DLC that Nomura wants to do. With very little, there are going to be a couple paywalls to get for paid DLC, but that might just be a little small things here and there. It hasn't been confirmed yet, but he does plan on putting once they get a couple free DLCs and out later this year. Critical mode is possibly going to follow shortly after that.
Yeah, which was pretty exciting to hear that as well. And the thing that they really wanted is they didn't want it to feel like just you have less health and take more damage. They wanted it to make it feel like it's an actually more difficult mode, which is what they did in the final mix games. They completely redid did boss fights and stuff like that to act differently, so you had to learn new things and you couldn't just do the same thing you've done every time. So that was really cool to see that. And really cool to hear him speak on that. The next thing that I talked about was like which one of the worlds left the deepest impression, and stuff like that. And he said Toy Story was the one that he felt hit the hardest for him because it took them 2 years to work on and to complete, and that they had to go back and forth with Pixar to make sure everything was okay. And he's like, and since it's the symbol of the beginning of KH3, because it's the first world after Olympus in Twilight Town, right?
Yeah, Olympus is Kingdom Hearts 2.8.
2.9. 2.9. Yeah.
You're right, sorry. Which I still love that.
No, I did too. I loved the nod to that.
But outside of like being thrust into, all right, you're Sora, here's all what's going on, and you're trying to figure stuff out. Outside of that, Toy Story, I would say, is like, hey, here's the real first realization of, oh, crap's bad.
Yeah.
Stuff's bad.
Yeah, and so then, that's what happened with Toy Story World, and so it is like the beginning. So that's the one he has the fondest and deepest memories of. Which I thought that was really cool. You know, I thought it was pretty cool that the Pixar one really hit him hard because I mean, Pixar's a lot of like the first movie I ever saw in theaters was Toy Story 1. Like I don't remember it. I was like 2 years old, but
you old person.
I know I'm so old, but like that was the first movie I ever saw. And so like for me, like that movie's been a staple in movies I've watched ever since I was a kid.
Oh yeah.
So that was kind of cool that it's funny that it hits him as hard as it hits me kind of thing. Like that was kind of neat. So next, he was asked about how we don't know a lot of organization members' names. Will we, learn about them someday, or even learn about the scar on Issa's face?
And to that, Nomura just says if there's a sequel, then we'll get to it. But at the time of when this interview happened, which was November? No, sorry,
March. No, wait.
February.
Yeah, it was in the end of February.
Towards the end of February, he said, to quote Nomura, he said, "But in my heart right now, my desire is a blank page." To which you would say he has a feeling that there will be a sequel, but he doesn't know which direction it's going to go.
Yeah. He was just like, I'm not really like, yeah, but So, which I understand. He's like, it's not the biggest press for him. So, which is completely fair, and it makes complete another sense. So.
It could also be we find out more about the organization members, either through future DLC, whether it be the free DLC or whatnot. It could be, who knows? It could really be anything.
Well, yeah, and with the next question, I think we might get some more of that explanation because they were asking about, okay, I understand how getting Ventus and Roxas back, but how did we get Xion back? And he's like, look, I plan on explaining that in a DLC. and how she ended up in the new organization, which in my opinion shows that we're going to see so much more about the organization in that DLC. So it might answer some more of these questions, because it's not his desire. Some of these things might come up, like Xion might ask you, oh, do you remember who you were before this? Oh, what happened? How did you get that? I never asked, but I've always wondered, how did you get that scar? Stuff like that. Like, these are things that could be asked in future DLCs. Next, they were asking about the nameless star, and basically all it says is, like, if you read the secret reports, you can have an idea of who it is. But you'll find out exactly who the nameless star is if there is a next time. Basically being Nomura and saying, maybe you'll find out. I'm not sure.
I put down the breadcrumbs for you to follow. I don't know where it leads yet. Please help.
Yeah, basically, it's like, look, I basically wrote everything to say this is who it is, but I'm really not sure I want to say that's exactly who it is. And Mickey might need more chains on his pants.
What are you talking about? You mean Leon?
Yeah,
no,
right?
He needs belts. Never mind.
all the belts and zippers. Next one was asking about Scala ad Caelum, about how it, the place which also appeared in the final trailer. It looks similar to Daybreak Town from Union Cross. Is there some kind of reference? And I want to talk about this one more, but it was supposed to be there for some sort of connection, and it's something I missed in my playthrough. But we'll talk about it in the Ultimania.
I was about to say, in the other article, what we mentioned here, a couple things are brought up again in the other article, which we'll go into a little more detail with.
Oh, definitely. They also then next asked, please give us a comment if you can regarding the post-release download epilogue and the secret movie. We are interested in the existence of Yozora from Verum Rex, who appeared in a toy box. As I've done it in the past, it's an introduction to the story. I will tell if there is a next time. And I noticed that he keeps saying a next time, as in, like, if like Squeenix decides to give me another chance to write another story, you're gonna find out all this stuff. That's kind of what I got as I read through it. And he's like, yes, there's all kinds of speculation, but it's not something that simply could be understood right now. It's something that's going to take more.
I know earlier we said this interview came out at the end of February. That's when this translation came out.
Yeah, the translation came out at the end of February. This could have come out at the beginning of February.
I know when this came out, actually, by looking at this, is because the first thing, the first question that we skipped over was about how many units were sold.
Yeah.
That was within the first week. That's true. This is... when this interview happened was within the first week, so it would make sense when Nomura was saying, I'm not sure how things are going. Of course, he does have had plans at this time, but he didn't know if he was allowed to mention them. But with the information that has come out, yes, he does plan on adding tons of stuff. Well, as much as that he can. As much as Square will allow.
Yes, very true. Let's see this.
We got next.
Finishing Kingdom Hearts 3 got us even more interested in the plot of Kingdom Hearts Unchained, because, it's not a side game. Please tell us what's in store. And he's like, you know what, we're doing a lot of things. There's going to be a new world along with that. Main story is going to keep moving in a big way. Yada, yada, yada.
There's a lot of stuff planned for...
Yeah, they're going to keep working on all this crap.
Yeah, no, it's
just to throw it out there. They're going to keep working on it.
I mean, and that's a bonus for it being a mobile game, because it's a mobile game, because it gets a lot of traction. You can easily update that, and the format that it's in, it's easy to put new stuff out.
Very true. Very true. Next, it was what can we expect for plans for post-release updates, DLC, all that wonderful stuff. And it's like, up till now we've created all these final mixes as separate packages. I want final mix, and I'm abbreviating and all this stuff, but basically I want final mix to be a DLC.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's be a free DLC and free updates and content and stuff, which makes this game super exciting, because like I know so many people trash on the game, right? But almost 60 hours into the game. I'll be 60 hours in by the end of this week. And like,
Yeah.
I still know that it's going to take me between 60 and 65 to 100% my first playthrough.
Oh yeah.
So like, not to mention, I'm going to go and have to play a level 1 mode. I'm going to have to go do this and that. Like, I'm so excited to do those different things.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's going to be interesting to see how that all works. But, and then, by the time I get done with some of those, I might even have more DLC that I have to do and stuff like that. So
Which I'm interested how the achievements are going to go.
same.
Which means because I've also 100% completed the game. I did in about 60 hours.
Yeah.
But with the new DLC, with DLC that comes out later this year, hopefully, if new achievements are added with that, that just means I'm going to have to do another save file because I don't want to continue it off the other one.
Yeah, well, and it'll either be something that you can continue off the other one, or it'll be, oh crap, they added this DLC. Because like, if they add DLC, I'm going to want to complete it off my main file first, and then go do it in a crit file. Like, personally, I would.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Like, because I personally would like to go and do my stuff for, I'd like to make my one file be my 100% file, versus having multiple 100% files, or multiple. This was 100% before DLC 1. This was 100% before DLC 2. Like, instead of doing that, I just would keep the whole one up the entire way.
The only reason I would probably separate it is for the first file, this is DLC before a lot of certain things get patched.
Yeah.
And I have it might still be you get to it later and all this stuff is still patched out because it's a newer version. But I don't know. My mentality for that's a little different.
No, and I get that. I think it's completely fair to have that idea and whatnot, and not want to change all those things.
Yeah. So with it,
that was our first article going in, and then so we go into this, and this was something that was published today, March 4th, at 4 p.m. And it was written by the same author. It was written or translated by the same author and whatnot that had done the last one.
Mm-hmm.
And they are talking about the Ultimania, which is, as Sando and I were talking, is something that we hope comes to the next one.
Mm-hmm. And I will give a brief description of what the Ultimania. For every Kingdom Hearts game that's ever existed, except for Unchained, there has been an Ultimania, which is the ultimate guide, all the behind the scenes. It's like when you pre-order the game and you get a bunch of behind the scenes stuff. This is the developer's edition, essentially. Every game has, all the Kingdom Hearts games, again, except for Union Cross, had an Ultimania. A lot of times they were only Japan releases, but you should be able to find translated versions online. But because KH3 is such a big thing, of course, because of the long wait between 2 and 3, it's just new development with the series. I hope that we get it to outside of Japan. But as for Mysterious Scenarios, which is what we're going to talk about, it goes a lot more in depth with the story of KH3 and a little couple things here and there between the interviewer and Nomura.
Yes. And so we start off with this first question is the speech that Sora gives in the opening the one that begins with, "They can take your world, they can take your heart," a monologue by the post Sora? And Nomura's like, "That's not the only answer, but the words do suggest that is how he feels at the end of the game."
Mm-hmm. So that quote is, I believe it's like right in the opening. Sora does say, "They can take your world, they can take your heart." I'm guessing the interviewer is saying, how does that correlate with current Sora throughout the entire game? To which Nomura just says, "That's not all that's going on. There's more to it than meets the eye."
Yes. Which is pretty awesome, I think. So let's see what happens with that. Next after that, he goes, "In the final world, Sora tells Naminé, someone else special I know won't let you down. And it seems like that was meaning that the person you miss or want to see is going to come and get you. Now, did that mean Riku? Well, Nomura goes back and says, well, he meant that the person Naminé wants to see the most would come get her. A way of cheering her up. It is actually Riku, but it's not Riku. It's actually in the form of the Riku replica. The one that at the end of the game runs off and takes the darkness out of the replica, all that stuff. That's the one who's going to get him, because that's the one that has the special connection to Naminé. Is the Riku replica, not actual Riku. And so there's that special connection right there, and so that's the one who goes to get her.
And the follow-up question is, Sora doesn't thank Naminé in this game either. Is there something special that's going to get carried over into the future game? Nomura does mention Naminé doesn't get revived until after the game is beaten. You see it in the
you see
credits,
it post credits, yeah. Credits and post credits.
Naminé's reveal happened at the end of the game, effectively making it something that will be drawn out longer. So hopefully Nomura will talk more about that. We'll see.
I also think it's something that happened post Adios Sora.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
I really do. I really think it was something that happened post Adios. But then that leads us into the next thing, Well, that all being said, how did Naminé's heart get out of there, right? Because, we need to know how did they get Naminé's heart out there without Kairi being there?
Yeah.
Without being accessible, which we don't know where Naminé's heart came from or when. So
yeah,
since based off the question before, you could assume that Kairi was back at that point. You could make the assumption, but it's not necessarily true. So when Kairi was defeated the first time in the Keyblade Graveyard, which is when everybody died, Naminé's heart was thrown into the final world, right? And Naminé's heart was also thrown out just before the final battle when Kairi was hit by Xehanort's attack. And then basically he says, I plan on showing what happened after that.
Yeah.
But that's one of the big things is that during that fight, and it's talked about in a couple of the other ones, is though that when Sora uses the power of awakening and stuff like that, like it's not really like waking up hearts, it's actually like a spatial temporal problematic singularity. And we'll get into that a little bit more, which is actually, I thought it was really interesting to see that brought into it, all the science brought into it.
Oh yeah, I love this.
And then they talk about the Nameless Star. Like, there was a Nameless Star who was whose scene was voiced.
Specifically because she was voiced, we were curious as like, who's she waiting for?
Yeah.
Like, what's her full story? Nomura just says that he can't reveal who she is, but he can say that whoever she's waiting for, Sora knows their name. So it could be anyone, really. It could be someone like, it could have been the Birth by Sleep people. It could be, whoever, because we don't know who Nameless Star is.
Very true.
Although there are a lot of speculations.
I will argue that because of knowing what we know about the other crew, Birth by Sleep crew, it's not going to be any of them. It's not going to be main crew.
The reason I say Birth by Sleep is because, as far as we know, that's as far back as Sora knows people.
Yes, and that's true. That is very true. I'm just thinking, in all honesty, I honestly think that it's Lee and Issa is the ones. Either that or he somehow, when he did that stuff with Ephemer at the end of the game, he now knows Ephemer's name, which I highly actually doubt that he knows Ephemer's name.
Or another side thought, when you do the secret reports, Sora is actually reading them and understands them.
Yes, that's true.
Which I doubt. But idea.
I doubt and don't doubt. It would be hard because I always felt like the secret reports where they're canon, they're not actually read by the characters of the game, even though they appear in the Gummy Phone. Because that would break the canon of the game, but it's actually canon for the game.
Yeah, it's weird.
So that's the thing. Because otherwise we'd know about Luke's shoe being Zigbar, before we fought Zigbar, like in the way that it works.
But here's the thing: in the secret reports, it never says Lushu's name.
No, that's very true. That's very true. But we know that there's something more going on with Zigbar.
Yeah.
But we don't know any of that currently. So now to the fun part.
Here's where the interesting things get. This is where Nomura answers in paragraphs.
I love it. So
do too.
When we leave the final world, we are back to the point just before Sora and his friends were defeated. Why is that? Well, as Nomura puts it, the power to put sleeping hearts back the way they were is the power awakening.
Yeah.
But the impact of forcing his friends' fading hearts back to the way they were completely rewrote reality and created a singularity that the rewrite caused the chronology in which they were destroyed to have never happened. So in other words, he broke the world.
Yeah, essentially with Sora using the power of awakening, trying to fix things, instead of doing it in the moment or happening after the moment, it's essentially time travel.
Yeah, so
in simpler words, Sora tries really hard and rewrites everything that happens.
Yeah, so basically, how he did it with Ventus, he woke Ventus up.
Mm-hmm.
Just by being there and having his heart activate and all that stuff. Now, when he's sitting there with everybody's died, he basically snaps to the point that he has a power surge and breaks reality.
Yeah.
Man.
He realizes what he's doing, because that's when he goes into the final world. So whatever's going on, he died. But he tries to regain his power. He does whatever he can to get to his old self, and by doing that, he rewrites history. He changes. He creates a singularity to where what happened never did, but he knows what all happened.
Exactly. Which was just
paradox.
Amazing.
That's what I'm trying.
He created a temporal paradox, which then went and overwrote the existing timeline.
Yeah. I worded that bad.
That's all good. That's what we're here for. We're here to make Nomura sound just as crazy as he is.
And for me to word bad.
Exactly. After that, they're like, how did Roxas appear? Well, the thing is, basically they got the replica done, and they just really needed the spark for Roxas's heart to come out. So when Lee was getting his butt kicked, Roxas went, "Oh no!" And then boom, there he was. That's the short of it.
Yeah.
Which was amazing. I still personally it's interesting, but it's not as interesting as some of the other stuff that we have to talk about. So I'm kind of brushing over it.
Yeah, the next part, these next couple ones I really enjoy. Where did that go?
What?
Ignore me. I'm breaking things on my side.
So when Merluxa is fading, he says, "I'm on the cusp of reclaiming my identity, my purpose for being." What does he mean about that?
And to that, Nomura just says, it's like, yes, you do figure out what he meant by that. If you play Union Cross to the end, you will learn his purpose for being.
In other words, keep playing Union Cross. Yeah,
you'll understand a lot more. To which then even interviewer again says, when Lauren Larkseen says, "I was really just along for the ride." What did she mean by that? Well, she meant Marluxia.
She was following around him, which therefore implies that she is, as we already kind of knew, a Keyblade wielder of old. We just haven't seen her in the U.S. game yet. Yeah,
it's not certain whether Larkseen has gotten her memories back or whatever, but for some reason she wanted to follow Marluxia. It could be because they both overthrew the organization to begin with. I don't know. It's something, or some relationship between the two of them. It's more than it meets the eye.
Yes.
I'm really curious as to what that is.
Which, of course, then you're like, well, what were they searching for? Like, how, were they also the Keyblade wielders of old that Xemnas was searching for and all that stuff? And he's like, it's not really clear, he's like, those who have played Union Cross can guess that, but, Xemnas was also looking for the Chamber of Awakening, which had Ven in it.
Yeah.
Who was sleeping there, who was a Keyblade wielder of old, because they've lived through the creation of the Keyblade. They've lived through all of these things that happened, which has just been pretty awesome. And so they have like a lot of power and a lot of reserve stuff in their memories of what happened from the days of old. But regarding all that, you're like, okay, but does Xehanort know how old Ven is? And Nomura goes, I'll tell you some other time there, kiddo. Which basically, you know, you're like...
Because I feel like Nomura knows, but he doesn't know how to word it.
Well, I think it's something that he's also like, I want to tell the story, don't make me give these spoilers. Like, yeah. That's where I feel like he's coming from. He's like, look, I could tell you how it happened, but I think it'd be better if you learned how it happened. And saw it happen. So that's the big interesting thing there. And now something that Sando and I had actually been talking about. We talked about Terranort a lot, and we were like, okay, what happened with Lingering Will? You know, how did Terra get why did Terra not get revived when you know, Ansem and Xemnas were both defeated? Like, what happened? And so by all rights, Terra should have been revived as himself at that point in time. However, his heart was still in the clutches of Xehanort, and it was unable to go back, and the shell of his body was the only thing that revived. Then Xehanort brought the heart of Terranort from the past to be put into the shell of a body he once controlled. So basically, Terra's heart was stuck by that, and then basically pushed down into the depths by Xehanort, pushing him back into the Guardian, that, you know, the monster behind,
which is the
giant dude of darkness.
Yeah,
that Ansem, the Ansem Seeker of Darkness uses to fight you at the end of KH1.
Mm-hmm.
And also we find out that his name is literally just the guy behind him.
Yeah, the monster behind.
Well, like Nomura says, the official name of the Guardian is the guy behind him.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I didn't even read that.
like that's literally what it says, and you're just like, Nomura. Lazy writing 101. But that was the cool thing, is that Terra and Xehanort's heart were in such a struggle within Terranort, and so this process meant that Terra's heart was constantly fighting and moving back and forth from its original form to the Guardian, and yada yada. And so thus, like, that's kind of why Terra's heart was in the Guardian, because it kept getting pushed back into the Guardian because he was getting kicked out of his own body, until he got to the point where he's like, I'm done with this. And he rips off, you know, the tape and it helps you beat the crap out of Terranort.
Mm-hmm. Which another great question, speaking of Terra, is what happened to Lingering Will? We both had speculations as to whether Terra just got the armor back, like what happened. And Nomura states that when Terra was revived, it caused the will to vanish, since it was essentially the power of...
It was the power of his heart pushing out to want to fix what he had broken.
But much like a Keyblade with the armor, even if it disappears, it can be resummoned as long as the wearer or the Keyblade master or the Keyblade wielder is in their usual condition. So as long as Terra is Terra and not someone else, he can always get the armor back.
Exactly. And so it's basically like it's back where it was. It got put away. You know, it's exactly like why he had, you know, Ends of the World at the end of the game, because he got his
that was
stuff
the
back.
last world, and it was the end of the world.
I mean, no, but yeah, I'll give it to you for the fact that the Keyblade Graveyard was the last game in Birth by Sleep. But so then they asked next. We saw that the new organization 13 was missing a 13th member in Dream Drop Distance. Who filled the spot? Answer is Xion. Xion filled the spot, and they had Demix and Vexen in reserve. And he's like, that part may have felt a bit out of nowhere, but I'm thinking of a way to follow up on it. So Nomura's like, I understand that there's kind of like a little plot hole right there, but I promise that it's natural and it was what's supposed to happen, and I'll make a better explanation later. He'll put a better explanation into the game. And so I completely get that and everything that he was saying on that. Because, I mean, it kind of made sense. We all knew that Xion was the 13th member.
Yeah.
Just nobody really was, like, outwardly saying, she's the 13th member. But you know she's the 13th member when you're fighting her.
Yeah.
Until she switches sides, which then completely breaks that defense that Xehanort had, giving Sora another opportunity to squeeze in there and bust up his plans.
Yeah. But the next question going on is, speaking of the new Organization 13, do they have numbers? And I agree with what Nomura says on this, because it would confuse me as a player.
I'm so happy he didn't do this.
I'm happy he didn't do this. So what he's saying is he did think about giving them numbers at first, but if he did go ahead with that, it'd be too confusing, because he was planning on doing Master Xehanort would be number 1, Ansem would be 2, and 3 would be Xemnas. But in KH2, the original Organization 13, Xemnas was 1. So people, not only new people coming into the series, or just anyone in general coming into the series, would be completely confused as to who is who.
Yeah, why is number 1 now number 3? Yeah, and so it makes complete and utter sense.
Yeah. I feel like for a couple of them, like Demix and Luxord, they would probably still have the same numbers.
They would probably keep their number, but I understand it, and I'm happy that they did not get new numbers.
Yeah. It would make cosplayers' jobs so much harder.
It really would. You're right. And so when Sora beats young Xehanort, and young Xehanort's fading away, he's like, "Goodbye, Sora. Your time in this world is, like over." Like, he's like, "What does he mean?" Well, basically, Nomura says it hinted at the ending, that Sora's gonna have a high, like, he was warned that there's a high price to pay for wielding such power foolishly. The power of awakening is not the power to bring people back to life. But that's what Sora did anyway, not knowing the risk for the reward. And so as a result of time being rewound, it created the inevitability of Sora disappearing and paying the price for what he did. Because literally the translation in the Japanese was, "You will fade from this world," or "You will vanish from this world."
Mm-hmm. And young Xehanort's quote cut off before he finished, so fade or vanish was cut off. So all you heard was, "You will blank from this world," or you'll be just gone in this world. If Sora, depending on how it plays out, if Sora keeps using that, he knows that power, and if he uses it the wrong way, it'll be interesting.
And he did.
Yeah.
Like, he really did. He used it in the wrong way, and it was not what he should have been doing, and thus why he disappeared.
It worked out for the first, immediately it worked out fine, but
the second he used it to save Kairi, he used it for a reason that was not its intent. And they've always said that time travel magic in this universe has a hefty price.
Yep.
It does, just like how pulling out all the hearts to keep them in the replicas and stuff, like, they're only there if they have a vessel, and once they leave, they go back to the time when they're going to die again.
Yeah.
Like, they're only pulled out of that time for a moment until they're not needed anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's interesting, and I can't wait to see what happens with Sora on that one. Then Lee was insisting on being called Axel. Was that so Roxas could recognize him? And he's like, yes, but also because when he saw Kairi as Shion, he remembered that there was someone he was supposed to remember, and so he felt like he had to be called Axel to remember what he had forgotten.
All that Shion remembered. Shion remembered Roxas and Axel. So that's part of the reason why he's like, I have to stay as Axel.
Yeah. And that was just the way that it was.
Mm-hmm. Next up, also interesting.
Yeah, we talk about a bunch of Maleficent stuff now.
Yeah.
Because we're wondering, how does Maleficent know about the black box? I'll let you go ahead and answer.
Yeah, this gets interesting. So
I got to this point in the story, by the way, for Kingdom Hearts Unchained, so it makes more sense to me.
Yeah, I also did, and I might have to go back through it again. So after KH1, Maleficent traveled to the age of Union Cross, which is supposedly set. Isn't it set in a not really
It's set in
parallel
a
universe?
parallel universe, but the one she's in is also made of data.
Yes. She travels to the age of Union Cross. When she returned to the present after that, the result was her rebirth in KH2. So between KH1 and KH2, she's in the world of Union Cross or Data.
Yeah.
The act of returning to the present time or going into the future is connected to how characters from the days of old have ended up in the current time period.
Yep.
So essentially, because of Maleficent's interaction with Union Cross, is how we have Xehanort?
It's interesting because I wouldn't necessarily say it's Xehanort because we haven't been explained as to why. And this is another question down here as like, how do we know why Xehanort is the way he is?
Yeah.
Which Nomura goes to say, look, I literally cannot explain it unless I give you a game based on him. Because if I went into that stuff, we wouldn't have finished what we were trying to finish. Which I understand. I would just like some either book, article, something to catch us up on that. But with all this, it brings actually a paradox because it's like, if you've ever seen what was the movie Interstellar, how at the very beginning of the movie there was somebody scratching on like the door in her closet and whatnot, like they heard these noises. And it was McConaughey or what? Is that his name, right?
I couldn't tell you.
All right, dude.
Oh, Matthew McConaughey.
Matthew McConaughey.
McConaughey.
There it is. So McConaughey's character was scratching on these boards because he was in the fourth dimension, which means time is a physical thing that you can move through. And so thus it's like, okay, but how did he know to like scratch on the board? And you see him doing that. So like, which self is the first self or the second self or the like? And so the way I explain it is basically you're following the journey of the second one throughout the entire movie. Because it wouldn't make sense to start the movie without the first one. But with this, there's literally like Maleficent was pushed into looking into this stuff because of Xehanort, but she's the one who also went and possibly gave the means for Xehanort to be created in his sense now.
Which also, yeah, you can't really get a lot of information out of it because, like you said, Nomura doesn't. If he's going to talk about it, he's got to do something with it. You can't just give it away. But because of Maleficent, that would also, with Xehanort being who Xehanort is now, couldn't you use that as an excuse for Luciu as well?
You could use it you could use Luciu as the excuse for Xehanort, and then Maleficent as the excuse for everything of the the Keyblade wielders coming out. That could be what you could do and get away with. But again, it's one of those things if we just don't really know. Yeah, we won't know until that gets done. But speaking of Xehanort and all this fun stuff with him,
actually, before we get to Xehanort, one thing we missed on here is still speaking about Maleficent.
Oh yeah.
Speaking about the what?
The black box.
I don't know what I was saying. The black box. How does she know what's in there? There's points throughout the games like you need to find this box. Well, what's in it? Well, we'll know when we open it. It seems to think that she knows the Book of Prophecy is in it, but it could also just be because of the fact that she's did stuff in Union Cross. That's how she knows.
Yeah.
Nomura also says that he plans to give more backstory as to how with Maleficent and just more stuff in Union Cross.
Yeah, I honestly don't think a Book of Prophecies is in there. It could be. It could
don't
be. I'm
know.
not going to say that it's not. I just personally don't think it is.
The biggest thing, the reason I'm not sure is because the end of the game, Lucio had.
Yes.
That's my biggest. Maleficent going after it, I could care less about. It's the fact that her knowing about it is what throws me off.
Well, and I think that she only knows about it, and now she's at the point where she's going to have to warn and let the heroes know about what's going on.
Yeah.
Because now it's going to be Luxu trying to recreate the world that they had before, I think. I think that's what he's going to start trying to do now. It's because he lived, he made it through to the point of seeing the one guy try to restart the world, and now his task is done. So now it's, can we bring back the Master of Masters? In which case, can we also bring back our home?
Yeah.
Which is what I think is going to happen, and what I think is going to be the next saga for the series. Now, skipping down a little bit to it, just for time's sake and whatnot. They were interested in this as to why Xehanort wanted to remake the world, and that basically goes to, I want to talk about it, but I can't because I don't have time.
Yeah.
But also through some of the fun stuff with that in Xehanort, we learn a little bit about something about where he comes from, Scala ad Caelum, which is where him and Ericus are from. Well, it's interesting because you see something that looks like the clock tower from Daybreak, which I missed completely.
Oh, I noticed it.
I did not, so I had to go back and play again. But
confused.
It's like, wait, where did that happen? Was Scala ad Caelum built up upon the ruins of Daybreak Town? And Nomura's like, yeah, I was. He's basically like, yeah, they drew up two proposals. It's like one normally on the seabed, and the other one was upside down from the surface of the sea. And he's like, I like the upside down one because I like confusing you guys. So basically, that is the clock tower. Scala ad Caelum is, the stairway to heaven is where Daybreak Town was.
Yeah.
Which is pretty cool. And then the last thing is the true identity of No Heart, which was Birth by Sleep's final mix. It was one of the final boss battles in the little arena area that they had.
Yeah.
That was Master Xehanort. It's just that was his old armor, and in Kingdom Hearts 3 he's wearing his current armor.
Yeah.
And then the Lost Masters are the 7 Masters. It's the Master of Master and his 6 apprentices. And the last thing that I think is really interesting to talk about, and we will not have time to cover our last article tonight. But the last thing that was talked about in it was Luxord was fading away. He gave Sora a wild card. What does this mean? And Nomura's like, it'll come into play. Who knows?
Yeah.
Maybe it'll be how Sora comes back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because it was said as once Sora beat Luxord, he said something along the lines of, "Man, you won that fair and square. I would love to play a game of cards against you at sometime in the future. Well, here, take this."
He was like,
"Here, wild card."
He's like, "Here, take this. It's a wild card." He's like, "Why do I have it?" And he's like, "Basically because you are a wild card." Like, is how I interpreted the situation. That's not exactly what he said, but he's basically like, "You are the wild card. You're the one that changes everything."
Mm-hmm.
And so that wild card could do something to change everything, because Luxord is also possibly a Keyblade Master of Old. We do not know.
Mm-hmm. It's also, I would say, inferred that Luxord is very, I wouldn't say super scientific and smart like Vexen and Yenzo, but because he's known for gambling, I feel like he has just a more general
he has a
knowledge
grasp of what's going on.
Yeah, he knows what's going on, and he knows how to kind of manipulate it. And Sora beating him and stopping him and getting him in the way, I feel like is more to it saying, yeah, I didn't see this coming. You are definitely a wild card, and I don't know how the future's going to hold for you.
Yes.
But take this. It might be a big symbol for what the next DLC is. But we'll see.
It'll be exciting to see what happens nonetheless from it all.
I'd love to see Luxord's original person.
I would too. I'd like to see him come back and find out what his actual name is and everything like that.
And see if his personality is the same.
Yep.
Because his nobody personality I love. But if his normal person is the opposite of that, I don't know if I'll love that.
Well, Lee and Issa were pretty much exactly the same as Syax and Axel.
Yeah.
Roxas is a lot of similarities to Sora.
The only reason I have speculations if it's opposite is because there are two specific organization members who appear in Union Cross, and they are opposites.
Yes, that's true.
That's why I feel like...
Although I have yet to see where Larxene is. Like, I have yet to see her.
Larxene... I remember seeing her, I don't remember. But she is a quiet kid and doesn't talk and is afraid of people.
Okay, yeah.
And Marluxia's character, whose name I can't remember right off.
Yeah, Lorium or something like that?
Yeah, he's a very friendly and buddy-buddy with everybody.
Which I think is a facade, but it's kind of coming across to the point where it's actually not a facade. So... We'll see what happens there, because he's trying to figure out what happened to his sister Stracelia, who was supposed to be in his place.
Yeah, again, one of those that's up in the air.
Yeah.
At this point.
But we'll be interested to see what happens. I don't have too much to add. That's about an hour for us right now. Yeah. So that all being said, I don't have any more speculation to throw in on this right now. We'll see what happens, and as we learn stuff, we'll let you guys know each week and whatnot, as we always do. If you guys want to talk to us at all, find us on Twitter, either Sando at Sando153 or me at MindOfKill. And that's the best way probably to contact us at all. With that all being said, I hope you guys have a great day, stay awesome, and do great things. We'll see you guys next time. Adios.
See ya.